Hi everybody, today we're going to talk about caring for an infant. We already talked about feeding the baby, so now it's more of diaper changes and immunizations and soothing a crying baby and their sleep schedules. So first off, let's talk about diapers. You have that option of cloth diapers or disposable diapers. Both have advantages, both have disadvantages. Typically for a newborn, they're going to have 6 to 8 wet diapers a day, 2 dirty diapers, and if you choose cloth diapers, you tend to need to change their diaper more often. And that helps keep moisture away from their skin. Regular diaper changes to help keep the moisture away from their skin will help prevent diaper rash. It tends to be if they sit in a wet diaper for too long, it's going to irritate the skin and can cause diaper rash. If you're changing them on a changing table or anywhere up high, you want to make sure that you're holding them, you have them secure so that there's no possibility of them rolling. They can roll at any time, and you don't want them rolling off of the changing table and hurting themselves. When they're newborns, they have that umbilical cord that's still attached. You want to make sure that stays clean and dry. So you're going to need to fold the top of the diaper down below the umbilical cord, and that way it keeps that area that's still healing clean. They do make some diapers that have a little notch there, but sometimes when they're real new little babies, especially smaller babies, they tend to still be a little too high that you still have to fold that down below their umbilical cord. Powders aren't necessary. They actually are not recommended anymore because anything that's made of talc, if the baby breathes it in, it can be an irritant to their lungs. This is kind of interesting looking at the cloth versus disposable diaper decision. A lot of times you have, for a year, 3,800 diapers that you're going through. So that's a lot of diapers that go through the landfill. They also cost quite a bit of money. Whereas cloth diapers, you do have to wash them or get them cleaned. And so depending on your how you clean them, whether you have some sort of diaper service or you wash them, depends on how much the cost will be. There's an initial cost for the diapers, but they can grow with the baby, so that helps that you don't need quite so many. Cloth diapers have come a long way in the last few years. It used to be there with the white cloth that you put the diaper pins on. That's what my mom used. And now you have ones that have lots of different colors and fabrics and snaps on them so that they can again grow with the baby. So there's a lot more options, I think, to cloth diapers now. Cloth diapers, they have some inserts to make them more absorbable, still washable. This one has some Velcro on it, again some snaps to help keep them have that ability to grow with them. So you're not quite buying as many as they grow. All right, so diaper rash. I did mention that if their skin is irritated, that's what tends to cause the diaper rash. And so you want to make sure that you're keeping the diaper clean, keeping that area dry to help reduce the diaper rash or the possibility of diaper rash. Because a lot of times, once they get that, they're a little fussy, they're a little sore, so it takes a little bit to get rid of that. If they get diaper rash, it may be just a mild redness to their diaper area. It may have a scaly look to it. Severe cases may look like pimples or blisters or have just nasty sores. So if they get diaper rash, and the more irritation they get, the more severe it may get. Treatments, you want to dry their bottom when you're done changing them. There are ointments. There's tons of different ointments and creams out there. If you can't find anything at the store that works, you can go to the doctor and get prescription treatments to help deal with the diaper rash. Some causes, it could be that the diaper is rubbing against the skin because it's too tight. It could be rubbing against the skin because it's left on too long. It could even just be a sensitivity, more allergy related, that they're sensitive to the soaps or the perfumes or in the wipes or in the diapers. Some people say that certain brands of diapers, they just change brands and the diaper rash goes away. My kids were really sensitive to anything with a scent, so baby wipes all had to be unscented because that whatever was added to it for a scent tended to be more irritating to their skin. Bath time can be fun for babies, and you want to make sure that they are secure and safe during bath time. When they're newborn and they still have that umbilical cord attached, until that heals, you just want to give them a sponge bath. And really, for babies, you tend to only need to give them a bath about every 2 or 3 times a week until they're crawling. We kind of did an every other day so that there was a routine, and sometimes it's easier to keep track of. Once they start getting crawling and getting into things, then you tend to have to give them more baths. Bath time, you just want to give a couple inches of water for them to sit in, 2 or 3 inches. You don't want it too deep. And you always want to keep an arm around them and keep your eye on them at all times. You don't want to turn your back on them at all because they can drown even just in a couple of inches of water. They recommend you give them a bath before feeding them. Sometimes the motion of the bath can bring up the formula or milk that they just ate, and so then they will be hungry again sooner. Typically, you're going to start with washing their face and then work your way down. Diaper area should be the last area that you wash. Sometimes they'll get cradle cap. Cradle cap, if you've ever seen on the baby's scalp, like a yellowish or a tan or a brown patches on their skin, that's cradle cap. Basically what it is caused by is babies are growing extremely fast, and so their skin is falling off faster than they can keep up with it, and so it starts to build up on their scalp, and that's what you see when you see the cradle cap. To get rid of it, you're just going to massage a little bit of baby oil into their scalp and then shampoo their hair, and a lot of times that will clear it up. They do make special cradle cap oils, but baby oil works just as well too. It is aggravated by sweat, so the more sweat they sweat, the more that cradle cap will build up on their scalp. So the best way to help reduce that would be to keep their head uncovered while you're at home. Obviously, if it's winter and you're going out, you probably need to put a hat on them. But dress them in lighter clothes, keep that amount of overheating lower. Some babies are colicky. You've probably heard of that before. Colic is diagnosed when a baby cries for at least 3 or more hours a day, at least 3 days a week for 3 weeks. And then they say, yes, the baby is colicky. A lot of times with colic, they tend to have the most intense crying in the evening. Their cries are piercing and they can't be consoled. It's very hard on usually the parents at that point. Typically, it lasts 3 or 4 months. So if you can remember the 3-3-3-3, that tends to help with the numbers of colic. So 3 hours a day, 3 days a week for 3 weeks, and lasts 3 months. Unfortunately, causes are unknown. There are some theories that it has to do with our digestive system not maybe being fully developed or having some sort of issue there. Trapped gas is going to cause discomfort. So if they tend to take in more air as they're eating, that could be making them more upset. If you think your child has colic, talk to the doctor. They're really good at helping give you some advice on what to do. They can also rule out if it's something else, if there's some sort of illness that is causing that fussiness. Coping with colic, there's a lot of things that it can be really hard when the baby's is crying all the time and not consolable. So ask for what you need. If you need a break, if you need some help, ask for it. Arrange for some times where you can just have a timeout, whether that's just getting a shower or walking around the block. Just make sure that you get what you need so that you're not overly stressed and overly at your wit's end. A lot of times family and friends will help. If you ask them to come over and hold a baby, whether they're crying or not, they tend to be able to help just so you can get that break if you need it. Good advice for any new parent is sleep when the baby sleeps. They're going to be up around the clock off and on wanting to eat, and so if you get more rest, you're going to be a little bit more calm to be able to deal with that crying. Take a deep breath before you pick the baby up. Just calm yourself down and know that it will pass. It will get better. And stay as calm as you can. Sometimes when people get really frustrated, that's when things happen that they might regret later. CARP's 5S system, this has to do with helping calm a crying baby. One is, what he looks at with this system is trying to recreate the sensations of being back in the womb when they were calm and still developing. So he says to calm a crying baby, you should swaddle them. So swaddling is when you kind of wrap them up in a blanket. They almost look like a little burrito, and they're all wrapped up tight. So it's that comfort of being all secure and in that smaller area again. Put them on their side or their stomach. This should only be when they're awake. Some babies love to be on their stomach, but if they fall asleep, you should turn them back over to their back. Some babies hate being on their stomach, so it may not work for them, but sometimes it's trial and error finding out what your baby likes. Shushing sounds, sometimes that helps you too, because it's kind of like you're telling them to be quiet, but that rhythmic shh can be soothing too for the baby. Swinging. The baby swing was great for my kids when they were a baby. We used a lot. It could be just swinging them back and forth in your arms, walking around with them, sucking on a pacifier, or if they're hungry, feeding can be also very calming. Some other things to help calm babies is rocking. Get a good rocking chair and be able to rock them. Sometimes just being close to you, having a baby sling or a carrier that you can, and there's lots of them out there, that being close to you, being able to hear your heartbeat can be something that calms the baby as well. Taking a walk outside, again, for my kids, it could be that miracle that is that change of scenery, the fresh air, I don't know. But as soon as you'd walk outside, a lot of times they were calm instantly. Some babies love car rides. Sometimes you hear of parents that they spend a lot of time in the car, maybe trying to get them to sleep, getting them to calm down. Some babies love that. It works for some. I've heard of some babies that hate the car too, so you never know. It could be white noise, a fan running, the dryer running, a radio, something that has that just background noise can be soothing for babies. Sing to them. Even if you don't have a great voice, they don't care. They just like to hear your voice. Maybe you just hum. Sleep patterns. For newborns, they tend to wake every about 2 or 3 hours. They like to eat around the clock. They're small. They're still growing, so they need more feeding more often. And that keeps going till about 6 or 8 weeks of age. Sleep does fuel their growth, and so they do sleep a lot, but they are up and down a lot through the day and night. The first month, the average baby sleeps about 16 and a half hours a day, obviously broken up into a couple hours here and there. By 5 months, that decreases to about 14 and a half hours a day. SIDS is sudden infant death syndrome, and that's something that a lot of parents have in the back of their mind. Basically, what SIDS means is that a baby under 1 year of age dies basically in their sleep, and then once they investigate, there's no cause of death that they can find, so it's ruled as SIDS, or no other cause of death. Some ways to prevent SIDS. They say to make the baby sleep on their back. When they start rolling, it's a little harder, and they will be more mobile, so they will be able to move back and forth if they need to. But before they can roll, you'd want to keep them on their back. Nice firm mattress. Most mattresses at the store are going to be rated well enough that it shouldn't be a problem. No pillows or quilts or stuffed animals in the crib with them. Those would be things that would be more of a suffocation risk, that if they get into their face in the pillow and they can't get out, then they wouldn't be able to breathe. I'm going to keep their head and their face uncovered while they're sleeping. No smoking around the babies. That can increase the risk of SIDS as well. Room temperature, you don't want to overheat the room, so just a normal, comfortable room temperature. They do make monitors. They're special monitors. They're not regular baby monitors, but they're heart rate and breathing monitors that people who have a history of SIDS in their family can get. And I can't imagine that if that's happened before, how paranoid you'd have to be. So they tend to be almost like little socks that you can attach to their foot, or some of the ones I've seen that would set off alarm if they stop breathing or if their heart stops. And then you can get them medical attention sooner. A little bit more about sleep. It tends to be babies start to sleep through the night at about 3 months. It's not a regular thing. My oldest, he slept through the night the first day he went to the babysitter, and then he didn't do it again for a long time. So it's a here and there thing. It's not regular at 3 months. Most babies sleep through the night regularly by about a year. Again, my kids didn't do that, but every baby's different. With kids, a lot of times you have to watch for signs that they're sleepy. You would think they're tired, just go lay down and go to sleep. But they tend to not be able to do that. They can't calm themselves down enough or put themselves to sleep without some help. So signs that they're sleeping, obviously if they're yawning, they're tired. Some babies get really fussy when they're tired. Some will start rubbing their eyes because their eyes are tired and they want to close, and so they're kind of rubbing their eyes. Some kids will just look away. It's like they're just staring into space because they're so tired and they don't know what to do with themselves. In those cases, when you see signs that the baby's tired, you put them in their crib, rock them, and a lot of times they fall asleep pretty quickly. Tummy time is their exercise time. Because of the risk of SIDS, most of their time is spent on their back. So when they're awake, tummy time helps them develop strength, especially upper body strength with shoulders and lifting themselves up off of the ground. It develops body awareness, that they can use their fingers and their hands, and they recognize their hands. Hand use. A lot of times they have play mats that you can put babies on for tummy time, and they have all kinds of bright colors and those fabrics that are kind of crunchy sounding when you grab them, or little toys. And so as they're grabbing for those, that can help with their use of their hands. It helps with balance, again, as they're getting more strength in their upper body. It helps them get to the point where they're able to get up on maybe their hands and get into those positions where they eventually will be crawling. Hand-eye coordination. Sometimes they're picking up those toys from the playmat, trying to put them in their mouth. And then the ability to roll over. If they're never on their stomach, it's going to be harder for them to learn how to roll over. Easiest, they say, is for them to learn to roll from their belly to their back. And then it takes a little while for them to learn how to roll from their back to their belly. My son hated being on his stomach. When he learned to roll, he would roll to his stomach and scream until you'd roll him back over. And then he would roll back to his stomach, obviously. And it was a game, and I'm sure he thought it was great fun. But eventually he could roll both ways on his own, and then he would just kind of a log roll across the room to get things. It's them, that first stage of being mobile. Like I said, tummy time should only be when they're awake, when they're supervised. Some babies get on their stomach and they fall asleep, so in that case you want to turn them over and put them in their crib. Immunizations are ways to protect kids from those childhood diseases that are out there. There is some that are given by shots. There are some that are oral medication that you give and they drink, and that helps build up their immunity for those diseases. There are some possible reactions. Sometimes they can be unusually cranky after getting their immunizations. They can develop a slight fever. Anything that might be out of the ordinary, you'd want to talk to the doctor. Sometimes they'll give you, especially with the first round of shots, they'll have you stay in the office a little while just to make sure there's no allergic reactions. You do want to keep records of the immunizations so that you know what they have, when they need to get the next ones. It also helps in cases when they go to school that you'll need to provide the records of when they've gotten their immunizations. You can ask the doctor about giving them some Tylenol before having the immunizations, and that helps with any discomfort. It can help with fever, but definitely something to talk about. My oldest, one of his first sets of immunizations, he fell asleep on his way home and we didn't give him Tylenol, and he woke up and screamed for like an hour, and you could tell his leg was sore where he had gotten that immunization. So it was kind of hard, but definitely a lesson learned for us that he was one that definitely needed some Tylenol before going for his immunizations. We'll look later at some of the different immunizations and what they're for and when they get them, different series. So for today, that's all we're going to talk about when it comes to taking care of infants, and we'll talk more later about all of those topics.